Hey guys! So, it's really hard for me to contain my excitement, and I really don't believe that I should anyway. But I'm so excited to welcome on Jessica Mahler to episode 6 of Conversations with a Passion Pilgrim. Me and Jess met in Bali last year, or actually, I guess this year. Seems like forever ago. Just as all the COVID stuff was beginning to amp up. She actually was in Lombok when she ended up, I think she cut her trip short because she was going to go to Mexico and stuff, and ended up having to go home because everything was locking down. So we met, hey girl, we met at a yoga teacher training that Blissology was holding because she was one of the teachers there. And we just really connected. She's got this really, not only did I love her yoga class and just the way that she came through in that, because she's just got a different energy about her. I love the way that she holds herself. And she's introverted like me, but in her own flavor of ways. And we connected over crystals and stuff, and she told me she was writing a book, and I was like, cool. So the cool thing is she wrote it, and so now we're gonna talk about it. So I'm just gonna bring her on here. Oh, just waiting. Yay! Good to see
Oh,
you.
so good to see you too. Last time
Oh,
we connected, it was just,
this,
it's just the voice.
yeah. Oh my God. Okay, so I'm so fucking proud of you. I
Oh,
read I just read the thank you so much for sending me the book. I'm super excited. Like I'm honestly so excited to read it now because I just read the preface. Is it called preface or preface? What's it
yeah,
called?
yeah, preface.
Okay. I just read
Yeah.
that and it was like so like I just really felt you and I was
Oh,
like, oh, talking to me. And then I was reading the introduction and I'm just like, and it starts going into some of the history and I was like, oh my God, like this is so good and it's such an easy read and like the font, oh my God, the font. Oh,
I
like
know. That's one of my favorite parts about it, the font.
yeah,
As someone like I don't know, I worked in editing for so long. Like the way the words look matters, and if it looks pretty, I don't know, pretty in the way it's spaced and I don't know, the whole shape of it. Like
yeah.
publishing a book is wild. There's so much I had no idea about, and yeah, I had no idea the font was going to be like that until they started sending me edits through, and and it wasn't even yeah, it was halfway through the whole editing process that I got to see the font, and I was like, oh my God, this is getting real, and I love it, and it looks so pretty, and
It's so
yeah.
the turquoise color too. I mean, that really resonates with me and my eyes love that color. And it's interesting because when I first, like, I know you're a sensitive human being because you do a lot of healing work and like we really jive on that. And I love that, like, right away, you're like, what was something that you said? You mentioned crippling anxiety, which like I talk about all the time. I was like, oh my God, I feel you. And okay, so for everybody that's listening out there, this book is dedicated to for anyone who's ever been told they're too sensitive. Like, yeah. So, and the reason that I'm linking that is because the font, for people out there, you have to get the book, and you'll hear more about it during our conversation today. But the font is so calming. Like
Oh,
it's not overwhelming. It's like it just there's something about reading it and the font and like even like there's actually the font's actually bigger as well, which is nice. It's just
mhm,
not an overwhelming read at all, and your choice of words is so intentional. It's like I really felt like I only read like 6 pages. Like I really was like, whoa, this is refined. Like this is really, really good. And I'm just like so proud of you for I mean, how many people are like, yeah, I'm gonna write a book or whatever. Like you fucking did it. And so fast. So yeah, I want to kind of get into that because at the beginning of the book, you mentioned that the entirety of the book was written during COVID. So, P.S., ladies and gentlemen, that's like this year, and it started like lockdown was in April, and we're like just getting into December, and shit's like ready for print. Like,
Yeah,
so
I mean, I was on lockdown beginning in March.
okay,
The states came under lockdown much sooner than Bali, and that was a whole thing too, is that we're being in Bali for so long, and it wasn't like a thing when I was there. You know, we were hearing about it from the States and other places in the world, but like
yeah,
no one was sick, no one was scared, no one was taking precautions. And, I was, talking to my partner, talking to my mom, and they're like, yeah, like COVID, like people are getting it here, people are starting to freak out. And I was like, oh, we'll just blow over, no big deal.
yeah,
And then I did go to Mexico. I was in Mexico for a week, and then
okay,
I met up with my partner and his family for a wedding we were supposed to go to in New Orleans, right when New Orleans was like the hot spot in the States, where it was blowing up while we were there. And no one was taking precautions, like no one was wearing masks, no one was distancing. We had a scare and we didn't even go to the wedding because we thought somebody that we were traveling with might have had it. They didn't, but it was scary, and we didn't want to be the people showing up to the wedding with COVID and possibly getting like the bride's grandmother sick.
yeah,
She was like in her 80s and in a wheelchair, and like none of us wanted that on our consciences. But yeah, like states were on lockdown starting March, and I mean, I am saying lockdown. There was no real lockdown. It was just like stay home, wear a mask, don't come into contact with people. But I got home mid-March, and I'm in Washington, D.C., for those of you who don't know me. And I needed like some time to decompress after like traveling for 2 months.
yeah,
So I really didn't start to work on the book until April. And yeah, I wrote the whole thing in like 4 months.
yeah.
No big deal.
Okay. Um, so I have a couple questions for you, and I really only prepared like three questions. You've already answered. Um, I really want to hear more about your journey writing the book, because I think a lot of us have these big goals. And I think, like you had a lot going on with, like, you're quite, yeah, you've been in the yoga world for a long time. You have a business with like healing and yoga and teaching classes in person, and what you were doing with blissology is like extremely transformational. And like you're, in my world, you're a successful person. So and then all of that shut down, and you're very much like, I think a lot of people can really resonate with the story of like, oh shit, my whole life just got turned inside out and backwards. What am I going to do now? And I did see you go through like putting some classes online, and then of course there's your own personal journey with that. um, the COVID, what do we call it, the COVID spiritual awakening that a lot of us have gone through. And then throughout all of that, you poured yourself into writing this book, and I think it's a really beautiful thing because as I can't say that you didn't get taken out, because I think through our conversations there were moments where you did feel taken out, and
Mhm.
yet you still were able to produce this thing. So I really want to hear more about that, and then after, I really want to hear, or before, however it feels like best for you, I want to know what, like, why did you write a book on Shungite? And you talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the book, but I just would love for you to just account your story in the way that it wants to flow out today. So
Yeah. Well,
begin
maybe,
wherever you.
yeah, I think maybe it's easier for me to answer the second question first.
Yeah.
So I have always wanted to be an author. not just a writer, like an author. That's been a dream of mine since high school and probably even before that. I've been writing in journals. I've been writing, I wrote really terrible emo poetry uh, in middle school, high school, and beyond. I mean, it's just something that's always been in me. And I went to college, university. I got accepted as a journalism major, but I dropped it and became an English major because I didn't want a journalism major. You had to like take reporting classes. There was all these like technical classes that you had to take, and I was like, I don't want to do that shit. So I'm not going to. And you could like I knew that you could still be a journalist with an English literature major. You don't necessarily need a journalism major to do what I wanted to do. So um, yeah, it took a long winding road, and maybe that's a story for another day. But if eventually I started focusing on writing, there's a lot of fear to get over, and you know, getting over the fear of like what other people were going to think of this thing that
Yeah.
I put out. You know what I mean? So, uh, this book wasn't my plan to write. I actually answered a job ad.
Mhm.
So there's like I'm in a writers group on Facebook, and I had been in it for about a year, and I'd seen tons of like writing jobs come through. So I mean, there are people like cross promoting job ads that people are finding online, whether it's via Twitter or like job boards like Media Bistro, or even people who work in publishing at a magazine or a publishing house meeting writers to write specific articles or write books. And I'd probably been a part of this group for about a year, and I'd seen hundreds of job ads come through, and I was like, oh, that seems cool. That one seems really interesting, but like nothing was like really like, yeah, I really want to do that. I really want to pursue that. So there was a job ad in this group that looking for someone to write a book about healing crystals, and that's all they said. And I was like, well, that's got my name written all over it. And I reached out and sent them my resume, and I was like, here's like my writing background, but I've also been in the spiritual background, been teaching yoga for about 10 years. I'm a Reiki master, breathwork facilitator, tarot reader. I incorporate crystals in my healings. I have experience with this. I'm your girl, and I think I sent an email out on a Thursday. They responded on a Monday. I talked to them Wednesday, and we had a contract signed like a week later, like a year ago now, basically. I think I signed the
Wow.
contract December 18th of 2019. So, in the process, they're like, well, it's just about one crystal, Shungite. And I was like, that's awesome because I know what it is. And I had Shungite with me, and I loved it and I used it, and I knew a good amount about it, but obviously there was more I had to learn.
Yeah.
So, so that's kind of how it came about. So I signed the contract in December, knowing I was going to Bali in January. And I had a couple of deadlines in January, and one of them was like I needed to turn in like 4,000 words by like the last day of January. Excuse me. I got a frog in my throat right now.
Okay.
And I knew I was going to be in Bali. I was going to be teaching, and that like, it's like 8 a.m. where you are, it's 8 p.m. where I am. And I just knew like the whole schedule thing. I was like, I'm not going to write while I'm there. I'm going to be like exploring and excited and whatever. So
Yeah.
I made that first deadline knowing I wasn't going to write it all for 2 months. And so once I got back, I like had a little bit written, but it was like honestly stuff that I had already had from like workshops or things that I have said on Instagram. I just kind of like pulled together. It wasn't like a serious deadline. I just wanted to see some work of like what I'll be writing about. So uh yeah, when I got back, I took my time to start writing because I had been on the other side of the world for 2 months, and there was just a lot to decompress from that. And, you know, and I got back, I got really scared because I hadn't been teaching for really, for 2 months. I had no income the whole time I was gone.
Yeah.
And like I just went into panic mode, and I was like, I'm gonna have to start teaching. I'm gonna have to teach like 3 classes a week or something, and do it online. And and I did that, and I like threw myself into teaching basically as soon as I got back.
Yeah.
And it was going really well, except I was spending more of my energy teaching, planning, getting ready for these classes, and then like feeling so drained from this like online world after not really teaching so much that like after 3 weeks or 2 weeks, I did it for 2 weeks, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like this is too intense. Like I can't keep this up. I'm gonna have to stop teaching, and maybe I'll just focus on like one-off workshops here and there and special classes, but I can't do regular weekly classes
Yeah.
because it was just like a distraction and like a reason to procrastinate what I needed to do. Like I signed a contract and they needed it by, we had like a July date, you know?
Mm.
So I had to like talk to my partner about it because, I obviously wasn't going to be able to contribute to the bills in any way possible because I had no, like I had 2 retreats that I had to put on hiatus. I had to cancel all these like in-person workshops. I had to cancel, obviously all my classes were canceled. So I had like nothing. I had a little bit in savings, but I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this book if I can't lean on you right now. I will contribute what I can, but it's not going to be anywhere near as much as what I have been able to previously, like this isn't forever, this is just for now, and are you okay with that? And I was really lucky that he said yes and that he was able to
Yeah.
be there for me in this way.
Like I
we're,
was like,
we're, what's that?
like that was like the only. You're like, I'm really hoping you're gonna say yes right now because I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And we're still together, thankfully. And my life doesn't look as bleak as it did in that moment.
Yeah.
But I had to give up everything because I didn't have that much time, and I knew I had to dedicate all of my energy and focus to this thing that I signed a contract for. So I broke a toe basically like the week that I got back. So I was stuck inside for like 3 weeks waiting for it to heal. And after that, I was like, I was itching to get outside. I couldn't wait to get outside. I couldn't wait to move. Like I was like, it was like hell to feel stuck in a small 1 bedroom apartment. And so once I got outside, it just felt so good. And I mean, I don't have to tell you that everyone knows it feels so good to be outside, but I was like, this needs to be a part of my daily routine. I need to get outside every day. And so, um, I started going out every day, and it would be at different times of the day. And then I realized like I need to be doing this around the same time. And like side note, I I have been told all my life. I mean, I suffered it, and like, you said, I said it in the book, crippling anxiety. I was living off of Pepto-Bismol for breakfast for most of my high school
Yeah.
experience. That's how bad my anxiety was. And for years, people told me, like Ayurvedic practitioners, acupuncturists, like people in the spiritual world, were like, you would really benefit from having a routine.
I have heard that so much in my life too. Like the very people that are like too sensitive. It's
Yeah.
like you're like, that sounds so boring though.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been a freelancer my entire adult career. I've had like 2 full-time jobs, and neither of them I was at for even a year. I've always been this person who can do so many different things at the same time or handle so many different jobs or experiences at the same time. And like being a yoga teacher, you have to do that too. Like, you might have a couple of classes that at the same time, you know, weekly, but then there's all this other time that there's to fill. And I, would do that with the healing work. I would do that with like writing and, Instagram and stuff like that. And so I've always been good at like playing Jenga with my
Yeah.
schedule and making the pieces work. So now I have like one thing to focus on, not even desire, a need to get outside. And, I started playing with trying to figure out what time in the day was the best time to go outside. And I started going out in the morning, and then I would get back and it would be like 10:30, 11 a.m. And I knew I only had like an hour or two left of like creative juju left in me. And I think it only took me a week to realize, Jessica, you got to move these outdoor outings to the afternoon, and you got to stay home in the morning. Like that's your writing time. And it was this trial and error experience that took me probably about 3 or 4 weeks to kind of find the sweet spot that worked for me. And yeah, like I don't know why I waited 38 years to figure out that routines are good and that they will help me, and not only like help me creatively, but help me to feel grounded. You might want to check that out, Kayla.
Okay, so I'm 32 years, but it's so funny that you're talking about this because I think it was like last weekend, because I have a breathwork for anxiety workshop coming up in a few days. And last weekend I was like just going off about my new routine because literally, so I have this like sick morning routine of like, it's only three things:
Yeah.
water, 8 minutes of breath work, 12 minutes meditation. That's it. That's it. And then I write the list.
Hmm.
And it's like my whole fucking life has changed in 2 months. I am so productive. I have goosebumps talking about it right now.
Yeah.
And so I was like, girl, I feel you so much. And actually, like, are you not in love with your routine now?
Yes. Yes. Like this is how I need to live my life the rest of my life. Like,
And then the other question that I have is, what's your in love with yourself capacity now because you have a routine
I mean, I
versus before?
yeah, I feel so much more in tune
Yeah.
and in touch and just like open to inspiration. I had my next book idea come through loud and clear last week. Like there was, I thought it was going to be, the name of it came through, and I was like, oh, that's a really good workshop title. I'm going to just write that down. Um, and it's like it's on a post-it on my wall right now. And then I went on a run a couple days later, and like the title just kind of like came through. I wasn't even trying to think about it, but it was like it came up again, and I was like, oh, okay, let's like think about this some more. What's the workshop going to look like? What would we focus on? And then um this like sentence came through that I kept like I was like, that sounds good. Well, that sounds better. Oh, that sounds better. Oh, that sounds better. And eventually I realized it was like a subhead, and I was like, this isn't a workshop. This is a book. This is a book that's coming through. And then as soon as I realized it was a book, like the name of chapters started coming through, and I had to stop and pull over to the side of the road on my run. And I don't like running with the phone. I don't listen to music
Oh,
anymore. It's just like open. What's that? Yeah, pull myself over. Um, and I'm like dictating into my watch. I'm texting somebody because I don't know what the note app is on the watch. I'm dictating a text to somebody about all the stuff that's coming through. I just like wouldn't stop. And I feel like I've always been intuitive and open to inspiration and open to ideas, but like
oh,
now it's just so easy, and like I don't have to try so hard, and everything just flows. And yeah, if I miss a thing, or if I miss multiple things, like my energy is down, I'm in a bad mood, like everything is off. And um yeah, like my routine kind of goes throughout the entire day. The morning, like, I have a couple things I do before I sit down to write, and it's just um, hot water with lemon, meditate, pull a tarot card, sit down, have breakfast, have a cup of coffee, sit down to write for 3 to 5 hours. Then I break and do some kind of movement, a workout, have lunch, and then I use my afternoons to catch up on like the online courses I've signed up for, do some research, look things up, and then I get outside. I would get outside for a walk or a run, and now it's a little bit different. I have to like do my walk or my run around lunchtime, like if that's like my lunchtime thing, because I don't know how long your days are in Bali, but the days are much shorter now over here.
Yeah, they're just the same all year round. Sorry, I'm just like getting my cats out of the room because they're killing each other.
Oh, oh, is that the new one?
That's the new one, yeah. She's
Oh,
doing really good.
good.
So she's going outside because they're making noise. Let's get back to routine. So yeah, the you were talking about the days are getting a lot shorter.
Yeah, so I've had to like move things around a little bit in my routine, but like it's not that much off. Like instead of doing like a workout at home around lunch, now I'll go out for my walk or my run around lunch, and then maybe do some light yoga at the end of the day because I'm not going outside at the end of the day anymore. So just kind of like a little switcheroo, but all the other parts are still there. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I I really want to reflect back on a few things. I've been taking a little bit of notes because I love that we came on here to like talk about a book, but it never ends up being that way. It's always behind it. And I think that's ultimately what everybody's interested in anyway, because they're going to read your fabulous book and they're going to learn all about Shungite. And but I think what they're really interested in is like, the Passion Pilgrim, essentially. Like, you're somebody who's so committed to like create, connect, and explore, and you talked about like you had to get outside and you had to feel connected with yourself and you had to like create something. And this routine is really like that foundational piece so that you can grow and start expressing yourself in the world. And you mentioned that it wasn't instant. It took 3 to 4 weeks to kind of find a sweet spot. You also mentioned that you've been refining it. You've just kind of figured out, okay, it needs to shift a little bit
Mhm.
because of, oh, just one sec. Do you still have me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think my Wi-Fi is just a little bit shit at the moment. Um, but you were talking about how you had to refine it a little bit, like just because you chose one thing doesn't mean you had to stick with it forever. Like, things change in your life and you can shift with it. But you have that kind of core foundation. Um, and you talked the thing I loved. So I'm a runner as well. And the best ideas always come when you're running because like, just like
So
so
many.
flow.
Yeah,
So, as it's so good. Active breath work, really. And
totally.
you talked about, because I think, especially right now with COVID and everything's changed for everybody. And it's like, people are feeling flustered and really in their head because the online world is all up here. Like,
Hmm.
everybody's reality is actually like inside their head and they're not really,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, people are getting out in nature and stuff like that, but there's a lot more social media, there's a lot more news, there's a lot more conversation around this like alternate reality of COVID world, and like
Yeah.
life after COVID. And so there's a grounding that's needed, and so you really talk about this grounding and talking about when you have this stable foundation, well, then it's great. I love myself a little bit more. It's so easy. I don't have to try so hard.
Hmm.
Everything just flows. And I just love that when you don't try so hard, that's when the magic happens. And that's when it's just this real like surrender and allowing. But it's also, you're not surrendering like, I'm just going to like lay down and wait life to, like, you had to like make some real choices and work through something uncomfortable, which you've been resisting for 30 years, to actually develop something. And it was just minor little tweaks, but like, look at how amazingly like everything's flowing now and life's just, like, I thought you were successful before, and now you're just new level,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I just love that, in order for you, like, look what's possible when you just implement a little bit of that routine. Like, you wrote a fucking book in like months, and it's really good.
Oh,
you know,
thank you. Yeah.
I love I love where that tangent went. That was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like I miss people. I miss hugging. I miss like gathering in spaces, but I am so grateful for this time because I don't think I would have, I don't think I would, I mean, I guess I would have had to figure it out, with such a tight deadline, but like, I just feel like I have figured out like the best way to live my life right now. And it feels so full and it feels so fun. Like it feels fun. You know,
Hmm.
I do this stuff that I have to do, but like I'm excited to do it because there's so many different parts of my day. Um, and like I spent, I mean, it's because of you. I just and also I want to give Kayla props because her first your first Dreamcatcher uh, class,
Oh,
live IG
live.
class. That like it like saved it. It feels a little dramatic to say it saved my life, but like it gave me something. I then I went on and like you did something. I think you made coasters and I missed it and or you didn't or it didn't save or something or I didn't catch it in time and you're like just Google the tutorial and then I did and I was like oh I can do other things and I was just started looking things up and you know I had um like macrame became like this thing I got addicted to and like I needed to do it at the end of the day. It was like another creative outlet, but you know, I got to use my hands. I got to make something tangible in with my hands in the moment and um I don't know, I've always been someone who really just, you know, I'll sit and watch TV, but I always like to be doing something while I'm watching TV and macrame just became this thing that I really just threw myself into like out of a need to create and to feel like I'm making something that I can see the results. You know, the writing like you see results on the page, but it's not something you can hold. I mean, it's taking all this time. I still have don't have an actual book in my hand yet. I think I get a box of them next week. Uh, yeah.
Be ordering.
But what's that?
I'll be ordering an autographed copy.
Um, but like, yeah, I really have to thank you because I never even thought about macrame. I never thought it was something I could do. And then like I loved doing that dream catcher so much. I had some more sticks. And I live like 5 minutes from this huge park that's actually like a forest. And I feel so blessed and grateful to live next to this thing because that's where I go for my walks. That's where I go for my runs. I don't even feel like I live in a city. I feel like I'm in like, you know, Little Red Riding Hood, some kind of like fairy tale where COVID doesn't exist and I can like just go out and roam. And I mean it does, and I've got my mask on, but whatever. Um, you know, like it really that like learning macrame on top of all the other things too, just really just lit something up in me and something that I continue to use and to work with. I had to slow down with it for a bit, especially when I was home visiting with family for a couple of months in the middle of this. And I think that was like crunch time for the book too. And I just was like, I can't do anything but the book
Yeah.
right now. Can't even do the macrame. Was doing all the other stuff, but I had to put that on hold. But yeah, it was like such a wonderful thing to focus on that was light and felt satisfying and was another way to be creative.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm so happy because
Yeah.
like it's when I started doing that stuff online, I had that same like initial COVID shock of like, okay, well now what? And like I hired a virtual assistant and just started like offering free stuff online. And then it was funny because when you were talking about being really tired with classes and stuff, right away, like I was the same. Like it was so tiring to hustle and have like two people show up,
Yeah.
but it was I still had to show up for those few people. And then you know, and it kind of ebbs and flows and stuff. But the thing about crafting for me, and I mean, I tie knots and string for a living and teach people how to do the same, you know, so
Yeah.
like with my kids and all that, although there's so much more than just making the jewelry that I'm focusing on these days. But the meditative effect of like tangibly, it's so grounding, you know, you're not actually thinking about anything, you're
Hmm.
like really giving your brain a rest, and you're trying to like figure something out in front of you. And so I find it to be very, very grounding. And for those of us who have that anxious energy where like you're just like you
Hmm.
just have a lot, like, you know, it's super, super helpful. Like I'm like diagnosed ADHD. You wouldn't necessarily be able to tell from the outside, but get inside my world and you'll see how much is ping-ponging everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
And and yeah, I just love that, you know, you allowed something like the opportunity to do something for nothing, you know, like,
Hmm.
no, you're not going to be a professional macrame artist, you just did it for the sake of doing it, you know. And it
Hmm.
allowed you to go look for sticks and you know, and just sit and wind down at the end of the day. And then from that creative outlet, you then got more creative outlet and more creative
Hmm.
download. And that's the beautiful thing about going back to routine and going back to exploring, is like just taking that first step and seeing where it leads you, and
Yeah.
being okay to let things go sometimes. You know, it's not serving you, you got shit to do, that's cool. You know, it's
Yeah.
just yeah, I love everything that you're saying.
Uh, yeah. And it was like, um, at like, I don't know, I'm still doing the macrame, but it was like, I felt like I had so many things to look forward to, or I continue to still have so many things to look forward to in the day. I get to sit and meditate and be by myself. I get to sit and breathe. I get to pull a card and just sit with my journal and write about what is coming up for me right now, you know, and then I get to sit and work on a book, like living my dream, and then I get to work out all that anxious energy. And then I get to make a delicious meal, and then I get to sit down with my partner and like have some chill time together, and I get to make something while we're hanging out, you know, and it was just like I just looked forward to every single part of the day, and it was like, okay, now it's time to do this little thing and this next thing and this next thing, and it was just like so cool. I had so many, there's so many different facets to my day that required different um energy and attention from me, and you know, it was just really wonderful to be able to recognize like this rhythm that was within me and express it somehow, you know. And I don't know, like just this whole year was just so freaking transformational in ways that like I was not ready for, and I had no idea was coming. And like I'm so grateful for this time because I really don't know where or who I would be right now, you know? If the book would have gotten done on time, if it would have been as good as like every time I open it and I'm like, wow, I wrote that, and you know, um, yeah, it's just like it was like a really, it's been a really sweet time to connect with myself more and understand that I there are so many things that I don't just need but crave, and it's all been really helpful to uh, even calm my own anxiety that,
Yeah.
you know, comes up. And I wanted to say too, because that you mentioned something about like, oh, if you could only see into my head and see what was going on. I feel like that's the case for everyone who's got anxiety or ADHD. It's just like so many of us like have this really great front, and we can, on the outside it looks like we're all put together and everything is cool and everything is calm on the inside, but like on the inside everything is wild, you know?
And it's really funny that you say that too, because I'm I've been doing some cognitive behavioral therapy recently. So I'm like, even though I think I know myself, we're like taking it one step deeper, you know?
Uh-huh.
And it's interesting because I'm starting to realize, so even though I'm aware of my reality and like I'm like, okay, like, and then even, and because I do healing work with other people and I'm very sensitive like you are, like you can tell, if somebody's like, maybe like you can kind of tell sometimes when somebody's like holding their shit together and
Yeah.
doing a really good job. And then I realized that like not everybody actually can tell. And I was like, how do you not know what's inside of me? It's so obvious. like, and it's really interesting when then you notice you're like, oh, I have been doing a really good job of holding my shit together. And then you start questioning, how have I been fooling myself?
Mm.
Because then you start to realize, oh, actually, I've even been fooling myself when you get to those deeper layers. And um, I think a lot of human beings and all human beings kind of have this element of being able to hold their shit together to a certain degree and not look at what's there. And it's not like you don't have to strip yourself raw and dig into all of it, but it's just about that cumulative, like, just gently peeling back the layers, seeing what's there and going to those deeper levels. And I mean, that's the beauty of the journey. Yeah, there's a lot going on inside of every human being that really just, I think, especially talking about this year, there's very like polar opposite energies going around. There's a big wave of compassion and there's a big wave of like really nasty energy, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of anger and stuff. And anger can be really helpful if, put into a book. And like, that passion can be put towards something.
Yeah.
And compassion can be unuseful if you don't have any for yourself, so but yeah, it's I just love the way that you've reflected on this year, because it really has been a spiritual awakening opportunity for everybody. And and the other thing that I want to point on too is like, if people are like haven't had a spiritual awakening and they're listening right now and like, oh, they're like, how the fuck did this girl figure it all out or
Yeah.
whatever.
No,
Yeah,
there's no pressure. There's no like, you
yeah.
know, it's not a requirement of this time. It just
Mhm.
happened, you know?
And I also just again want to um, talk about timelines. Like, look at how quick you wrote a book, and look at how long it took you to figure out a routine. And like, there is no timeline on reaching these milestones, and there's still no destination because you've written the book and you're still going.
Hmm.
So I love that. Um, so we have just maybe like 10-ish minutes left. And I wanted to ask you, because we haven't really talked too much about the book, which is Shungite. So can you just give us a quick breakdown on, for those who've never heard of crystals or Shungite or like whatever this is, like how did it really help your life? And is there anything else you really feel called to just tell the community?
Yeah, so I mean, I was thinking about it too when we right before we got on the call that like that I talk about in the intro like how the first time I like discovered or was introduced to Shungite was at this vegan food festival I was covering as a writer, as a journalist in Miami, which is also where and when I met Ian, which I thought was really wild. But because and Ian Finn is like Blissology, who is like the conduit that brought Kayla and I together in Bali earlier this year. So that was just kind of like a wild connection. But yeah, like I've had crystals around forever, and it's not like I have like 1,000 of them. It's just a good sized collection that continues to grow. And when I found this vendor at this, um, it was like one of those, the whole weekend was around veganism and like promoting veganism and how can you talk about it with carnivores to make people more open to, not necessarily like shifting completely, but trying vegan food, vegan fare, and plant-based fare. And so there was like this one day where there was like this warehouse that was rented out where there was all these different vendors, all these different types of vegan things. So it wasn't just food, it was like vegan clothing, vegan handbags. Um, there were like I got my Vitamix there. It was weird. There was some like weird things. It was super cheap, and it was the only reason why I got it, because I was like, I'm never going to see it this cheap ever again. Um, well, so there was like this vendor with all these black crystals, and I went up and I like was looking at the card, the description card, and I was like, I'd never heard of it before, and I asked her what it was and what it was for, and she's like, oh, it helps protect against EMFs, and it's really great for anxiety. And I really didn't know too much about EMFs at the time, but I was like, definitely have anxiety, and even though I've got a better hold on it now, you know, I still get anxious, and I like picked a couple up, and I was holding it in my hand, and it just felt like this rush of calm wash over me. And every other crystal I have at home, it's like it's pretty, and I use it for the things it says that you're supposed to use it for, but like I'd never felt such, never didn't feel as power, nothing, no crystal had ever felt as powerful as Shungite when I picked it up in my hand that first time, and still. And I
Yes.
was like, I just like felt it right away, and I was like, oh my God, I think I said it in the book. I was like, I'll take two, please, and I did. I grabbed two. I took two home with me, and so it's really great for calming anxiety. It's really great for protecting against EMFs, which are electromagnetic fields, and any electronic, anything that needs to get plugged into the wall, anything that needs to get charged, like our phones, like all these like toys, these gadgets give off EMFs. And so anxiety,
Which is anxiety to me. I literally
yeah,
have to.
yeah. Well, so anxiety is like air moving, you know, in I just had the word and I lost it. Um, Erratically. It's like erratic air, erratic movement in the body, in the belly, in the mind. And EMFs give off this like this also, I mean, there's a rhythm to it, but it's also like this erratic energy that's outside of us. So, especially now during COVID where we can't escape technology. There's no way anyone can be without technology at this time, because we all need it to connect to our families, to our coworkers, to job ads that we're looking for online, right? So like we're constantly surrounded, we're all stuck at home, we all have Wi-Fi. I would say like 95% of the population has Wi-Fi, right? So we are just constantly surrounded by this like erratic energy that's moving around us, which affects the energy within us, whether or not it's already erratic. Like even you might not experience anxiety like the way Kayla and I have discussed that we've experienced it, but like it's still going to shake things up and make it and can have an effect on us energetically. Um, so I talk about in the book, I talk about where Shungite is from, which is it's only was created in this one area in Russia, like 2.5 billion years ago. Probably
Yeah.
will never be made again. And I talk about its history. Peter the Great. There's a story with Peter the Great and Shungite in there, and then I talk about how my favorite part in the research process was discovering, because this was something that I was really looking for because I really wanted to know, but trying to figure out the science about like why crystals work and how, and the secret behind them. And so I talk a bit about that, and then I go into how EMFs affect the body. And we start with EMFs, this outside source of uh, energy, erratic energy, and then I start to move inward layer by layer. So I talk about the aura and how our aura is affected by energy within and without us. I talk about the chakras, and I go through each one and talk about how when there's a block in certain places, how that can come up, and it's all related to um, past trauma, past experiences. Hey, Marta. Um, and then we get into anxiety. So it's like deeper, 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 deeper in. And so hopefully by the end of the book, I feel like some people are going to think I'm a conspiracy theorist about the whole EMF thing. I feel like a lot of people don't 100% believe it, but as someone who feels it, who feels different in a room where there's a lot of electronics, who feels different when I sleep with the phone next to me versus put the phone in the other room. Like I I know it's true because I experience it, you know, and uh, you know, if that's not for you, you don't have to read that chapter. But you know, the chapter on the aura, the chapter on the chakras, the chapter on anxiety, I don't talk about necessarily electronics in those chapters either, but how our energy is affected by other people's energy, how our energy is affected by situations that we walk into, how our own experiences affect our energy, you know, from the day that we got teased the first time about, you know, the weird 90s bangs that happened. I had them.
Yeah.
That still might be affecting your hair choices later in life, you know? So I think that there's something that everyone can relate to, but yeah, I'll just
I'm
say
really, I love that you wrote a book on Shungite that actually is like the healing book for 2020. So
that.
like I literally like I see the divine intervention here for you. Showed up for it. Like so happy. Cannot wait. Literally when you get your books, let me know, sign one, and we're gonna ship it express because I'm really like just after reading the first introduction today, I'm so excited to like dive in. I have so many goosebumps right now and
Aw.
like also wove in you know, just for people that feel stuff, you know, and they don't really know what it means, like whether or not you call it anxiety or just like feeling, or if you find yourself numbing, or if you like it's really, it sounds like it's a really cool handbook just for the general human being. And I know you're also quite intelligent and quite educated. And so I imagine that you probably break it down like just from reading the first little bit. I know that the way that you speak your words are very intentional, and I'm pretty sure you've broken it down in a digestible way for somebody who's never entered the world of spirituality, as well as somebody who's been in it for 20 years, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm really excited to read it. And so, how can we get the book for everybody that's listening and like dying like me to get their hands?
Well, if you're on Instagram, you can head to my page, and in my little link tree, it's the top choice to click on to pre-order. It's not out yet. It will be available December 29th. But if you order it now in advance, it will get mailed to you. And pre-orders really help authors and book publishers so much, because the more people who pre-order the book, you know, if there's like a buzz behind it, it will show the retailer that there's interest and that they should keep stocking the book. And so if you are curious, it's really it's short, it's digestible, like it's a quick in-depth read. It's under 200 pages. It's under 200 pages. Um, but yeah, pre-orders really help. And you know, it is, you could go to the Simon and Schuster, and that's where the link takes you, the Simon and Schuster website. I know it's being sold at Barnes and Noble. I know you can get it on Amazon. But if you find it in a place that's an actual bookstore, like, to help, you know, you know, as someone, as a writer, but also like someone who's been really affected by this time, like, you know, support your local bookstore. We need those bookstores to stay open. There's so many wonderful authors who come through who do like speaking tours and share so much of their practice and who they are. And you know, bookstores have always had like a special place in my heart. You know, if that's not for you, like Amazon is still there. But if you can shop local, shop local.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I love bookstores. I'd always, even when I was living in Whistler, there was only one bookstore, but I'd always go and order my books from there because I just like loved going to the bookstore and chatting to the clerk and being like, "What do you suggest for me?" and combing like Beauty and it was like, and I still have a dream about having a golden ladder in my library. But when no, I love tangible books too. Like as a traveler, it's something that
Hmm.
that's kind of one of the nice things about settling in Bali is I'm slowly collecting more and more books, which is
Yeah.
great. Books and crystals are really heavy to travel with, so having a home base has been really important.
Yeah.
And so can people go into bookstores and order this book as well? Like, can they go into their local bookstore if it's
Um,
open?
I I think so. I have heard that people have reached out to me that said that their local store had it and that they bought it from there. So I'm not 100% on like which stores are carrying it, but if you have a store that you love, you might want to go to their website and see if it's available. I don't know if it'll be available before it comes out outside of the big places that I mentioned, but you can try.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask. I know the
Yeah.
bookstore in Whistler in Canada, they could pretty much order any book for me, as
Yeah.
long as so if it's not available now, then in the new year, just go check with your local bookstore as well if you didn't do the pre-order. Um, Amazing. I think this was just such a beautiful, timely chat to have. It was really good to connect with you, and I really, really encourage people out there to really actually get your book, especially if it's under two. Like it is really, really jam packed. And then for those out there too, like because you talked so much about anxiety, I just wanted to do a quick plug on the workshop that I'm doing this week, which is a breathwork for anxiety. And something we didn't chat about today is our equal love for breathwork and exploring your landscape and all that. And it's so if there's anybody out there who is navigating anxiety and wants to join a group of people. It's a small group right now. I think we have like 4 or 5 people signed up. So yeah, if you want to learn a little bit more about some quick breath techniques to kind of help with your anxiety and help manage it, as well as do a breath journey, and it's a gentle breath journey that we're going to do, then you can just go to the link in my bio for that. So there's 2 things you need to do is basically buy the book and do some breath work, and aside from that, like write down a morning routine, guys. So
Yeah.
if you help, if you have questions about a morning routine, like please message both of us because it's so funny that we both had the same situation. Um, there's no time like COVID to be more grounded, and it really was a call for grounding. So if anybody's out there and they're feeling lost or whatever, I mean, that's where the best adventures come from, is from being lost. So please send us a message. And yeah, Jessica, it was so good to connect with you. I love seeing your face.
Aw, I love seeing your face
I
too. I miss you so much.
know, and I'm just like, I'm just so stoked for you in like all ways. And I'm really proud of you for just getting your shit together the way that you did. And like, not that it wasn't, but like, I just really have some major love and respect for your journey and just your candid way that you share it. And yeah, you're just such a beam of light, and we're really lucky to have you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That means so much to me.
Yeah.
Truly. Thank you so much for having me. It was so wonderful to chat in
Yeah.
front of everybody. I hope that we can catch up again soon
Yeah.
on our
Beautiful.
time.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
that. Cool. Well, enjoy your night. Have a really good sleep.
Thank you. Have a really great day.
Cool.
I'll talk to you soon. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody.
Okay. Bye, girl.
Bye.